The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple. Alex, a kind-hearted man with a simple life, often walked home from work along a quiet road flanked by a dense forest. The path was familiar, comforting even, but that evening was different. Darkness had already fallen, and the air carried an unusual stillness, broken only by the crunch of leaves beneath his boots. As Alex made his way along the dimly lit road, a faint sound caught his attention, a soft, desperate whimper coming from the bushes. He stopped, his heart racing. Was it an animal in distress? Curiosity and concern drove him toward the sound. Peering through the underbrush, he froze. There, trembling and pitifully small, was a bear cub. Its tiny frame shivered in the cool evening air, and its dark eyes looked up at Alex with a mixture of fear and hope. For a moment, Alex hesitated. His mind raced with questions. Where was its mother? Was she nearby, watching from the shadows? He waited, scanning the area for any sign of the mother bear. But the forest remained silent. Minutes passed, and it became clear this cub was alone. Perhaps its mother had fallen victim to hunters or succumbed to illness. Whatever the reason, the cub's fate was now uncertain. Alex couldn't bring himself to leave the little creature to fend for itself. His compassionate nature wouldn't allow it. Carefully, Alex scooped the cub into his arms, feeling its fragile body tremble against his chest. To his surprise, the tiny bear relaxed, curling into the warmth of his jacket. The journey home was surreal. The streets were empty, and Alex felt the weight of responsibility settling over him. Once inside his modest home, Alex prepared a bowl of warm milk, sweetened slightly with sugar. Placing it on the floor, he watched as the cub crawled forward, lapping eagerly. The sight melted his heart. He decided then and there to name the cub Archie, promising himself he would do everything in his power to give the little orphan a chance at life. Alex quickly learned that raising a bear cub was no small task. From the moment Archie entered his life, the peaceful routine of Alex's modest home was replaced by the hustle and bustle of caring for the tiny, furry creature. Every few hours, Archie would cry out, his high-pitched whines echoing through the house. Alex responded with patience, warming bottles of milk and feeding the cub as if he were a fragile newborn. At first, Archie's movements were awkward and slow. He stumbled on his oversized paws, his tiny legs struggling to keep up with his growing curiosity. Alex found it endearing and spent hours on the floor with him, ensuring the cub had space to play safely. Slowly but surely, Archie gained confidence, his once shaky steps transforming into playful pounces. Alex's dog, Stella, wasn't as enthusiastic about the new addition. A loyal mixed breed with soulful eyes, Stella watched Archie with suspicion at first. She would growl softly whenever the cub came too close, her instincts warning her of the potential danger. But Archie was oblivious to her wariness. He waddled after her around the house, his soft grunts and playful demeanor breaking down Stella's defenses. Within a week, Stella's growls were replaced by cautious curiosity. By the second week, she and Archie were inseparable. The two would chase each other through the backyard, their games of tag becoming a daily spectacle. Stella, being faster and more agile, often outran the clumsy cub, who would tumble to the ground in defeat. But Archie was persistent. He would get up, shake off the dirt, and barrel after her with newfound determination. Alex couldn't help but smile at the unlikely friendship forming before his eyes. Archie was growing quickly, his once small frame now comparable to that of a large dog. Feeding him became a challenge. Milk bottles were no longer enough to satisfy his appetite, and Alex had to introduce meat into the cub's diet. He would prepare large portions of canned meat for Archie, who devoured them with gusto. Despite the joy Archie brought, Alex began to grapple with an inevitable truth. The cub was outgrowing the home. The small house, once cozy and comfortable, now felt cramped. Archie's playful antics often resulted in chaos, knocking over furniture, scattering toys, and leaving muddy paw prints everywhere. Alex knew that Archie was destined for the wild. Keeping him in a domestic setting would eventually do more harm than good. The thought of parting with Archie weighed heavily on Alex's heart. Over the months, The cub had become more than just a rescued animal. He was family. But Alex also knew that Archie's place was in the forest, where he could thrive as the creature nature intended him to be. One crisp morning, Alex made the difficult decision. He would return Archie to the forest, close to where he had found him. The days leading up to their departure were bittersweet. Alex spent as much time as possible with Archie, savoring their final moments together. He watched the cub, now strong and confident, chase Stella through the yard one last time. On the day of the release, Alex loaded Archie into his car. The once tiny cub now filled the backseat, his large paws hanging over the edge as he looked out the window. The drive was quiet, save for Archie's occasional whines of unease. Alex reached back to pat the cub, reassuring him with soft words. When they arrived at the forest, Alex chose a clearing near dense brush, a place Archie could hide and adapt to his surroundings. He opened the car door, and the now teenaged bear hesitated, looking back at Alex with soulful eyes. Alex's heart broke as he knelt down to give Archie one final hug. "You'll be okay, buddy," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Archie responded with a soft grunt, pressing his nose into Alex's chest as if he understood. Then, with one last look, Archie turned and ambled into the forest, his massive paws crunching leaves and twigs. Alex stood there, tears streaming down his face, watching until the cub disappeared into the trees. The house felt emptier without Archie. Stella, too, seemed to miss her companion, often looking around the yard as if expecting the bear to come bounding back. Alex kept himself busy, but every so often, he would glance at the forest and wonder how Archie was faring. Would he adapt to life in the wild? Would he find food and shelter? The questions haunted Alex, but he reminded himself that he had done the right thing. Archie was where he belonged, and Alex held on to the hope that his furry friend would thrive. 3 years passed since Alex had released Archie into the wild. Life settled back into its familiar rhythms, but not a day went by when Alex didn't think about the cub he had raised. He often found himself glancing toward the forest, especially on quiet evenings, wondering if Archie was safe, if he had grown into a strong adult bear, and if he remembered the bond they once shared. Stella, too, seemed to remember her old companion. Sometimes she would sit by the edge of the yard, her ears perked up, as though waiting for Archie to come bounding out of the woods like he used to. But Archie never came. One summer evening, as the sun dipped low in the sky and Alex returned home from work, Stella began barking wildly. Her sharp cries broke through the calm, startling Alex as he stepped out of his truck. The sound came from the backyard. Concerned, Alex hurried to see what had agitated his dog. Stella bolted through the open back door, her bark echoing across the yard. Alex followed closely, his heart pounding as he stepped outside. Near the garbage bins, standing on its hind legs, was a massive bear. Its fur shimmered in the fading sunlight, and its sheer size left Alex frozen in place. Fear coursed through him. Bears didn't typically wander this close to town, let alone into someone's backyard. The bear turned its head, locking eyes with Alex. For a moment, neither moved. Alex's instincts told him to back away slowly, to avoid startling the massive creature. But then something unexpected happened. The bear let out a low, almost playful grunt. Alex's breath caught as a flicker of recognition stirred in his mind. Could it be Archie? The bear dropped onto all fours and took a cautious step forward. Stella barked even louder, circling Alex protectively. "Easy, Stella," Alex murmured, holding out a hand to calm her. His eyes remained fixed on the bear, his mind racing. As the bear drew closer, Alex noticed something familiar in its movements. The way it tilted its head, the soft sounds it made, these were all echoes of the cub he had raised. "Archie?" Alex whispered, his voice trembling. The bear stopped just a few feet away and let out a deep, rumbling sound, almost like a growl but softer. Then, to Alex's astonishment, the massive animal leaned forward and nuzzled him, its rough fur brushing against Alex's shirt. It was unmistakable. This was Archie. Tears filled Alex's eyes as he reached out, hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence, to stroke the bear's thick coat. Archie responded with a low, contented rumble, pressing his massive head into Alex's chest. The once tiny cub had grown into a powerful predator, yet in this moment, he was the same affectionate creature Alex had cared for years ago. Stella, still barking, finally calmed down as she watched the interaction. Archie turned toward her, letting out a playful huff. Stella wagged her tail tentatively, then approached cautiously, sniffing the bear. To Alex's amazement, the two old friends seemed to recognize each other. Archie lowered himself to the ground, and Stella licked his nose as if welcoming him back. For a while, Alex sat on the ground with Archie, stroking the bear's fur and marveling at the bond that had survived the years apart. Archie, now a fully grown adult, was a testament to the resilience and intelligence of nature, yet here he was, back in Alex's yard, as though no time had passed. Archie's presence was both a joy and a bittersweet reminder of their shared past. Alex couldn't help but wonder what had drawn the bear back after all this time. Was it a coincidence, or had Archie remembered the warmth and kindness of the man who had saved him? As night fell, Alex decided to offer Archie a feast. He hurried inside, returning with an assortment of food, meat, fruits, and bread. Archie devoured the meal with enthusiasm, his large paws clumsily grasping the food. Alex laughed, momentarily forgetting the bear's size and strength, seeing only the playful cub he had raised. After the meal, Archie nudged Alex with his massive nose, letting out a low, affectionate growl. It was as though he was saying goodbye. Slowly, Archie turned and lumbered back toward the forest. Alex watched as the bear disappeared into the trees, his heart swelling with both pride and sadness. The following morning, Alex woke up with a strange mix of emotions. The reunion with Archie felt surreal, almost like a dream. Stella, too, seemed restless, sniffing the backyard as if expecting the bear to reappear. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Archie's visit than a simple return to his old home. Why had the bear ventured so far from the forest? And why now? Later that day, Alex decided to take a walk along the forest trail near the spot where he had released Archie years ago. The dense woods were alive with the hum of insects and the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. Alex carried a small backpack with water and snacks, intending to spend the afternoon reminiscing and searching for signs of Archie's recent presence. As he walked deeper into the forest, Alex noticed something unusual. The underbrush in certain areas was flattened, as if a large animal had recently passed through. He bent down to examine the tracks imprinted in the soft earth. They were massive paw prints, clear evidence that Archie had been nearby. But then he noticed something else, smaller paw prints alongside Archie's. The realization hit Alex like a bolt of lightning. Could Archie have a family? The idea both thrilled and worried him. If Archie had cubs, it could explain his return to the area. But the presence of young bears also meant heightened danger. Mother bears were notoriously protective of their offspring, and even Archie's bond with Alex might not override his instinct to defend his family. Driven by curiosity, Alex followed the tracks deeper into the woods. The trail led him to a secluded clearing surrounded by dense foliage. There, in the center of the clearing, was a makeshift den, branches and leaves piled together in a shelter that could only have been constructed by a bear. As Alex approached cautiously, he heard soft whimpering. Peering through the leaves, he spotted two small bear cubs, their dark fur glistening in the dappled sunlight. They looked up at him with wide, curious eyes, their tiny bodies huddled together for warmth. Alex's heart swelled with emotion. These were Archie's cubs, there was no doubt in his mind. But where was Archie? A sudden crack of a branch behind him made Alex whirl around. Standing just a few yards away was a massive bear, larger than Archie but with a menacing posture that sent a chill down Alex's spine. This was not Archie. This was a wild bear, and from the looks of it, it was not happy to see Alex so close to the cubs. Alex's instincts screamed at him to back away slowly, avoiding eye contact. He raised his hand slightly, trying to appear non-threatening. But the bear let out a deep, guttural growl, taking a step closer. Alex's pulse raced. He had been in the woods countless times, but never had he been face to face with such a formidable predator. Just as the bear seemed ready to charge, a thunderous roar echoed through the clearing. Alex turned to see Archie bursting through the underbrush, his powerful form moving with a speed and ferocity Alex had never seen before. The wild bear froze, startled by Archie's sudden appearance. Archie positioned himself between Alex and the wild bear, letting out a series of growls and roars that seemed to shake the very ground. The wild bear hesitated, its ears flattening as it assessed the threat. Archie stood his ground, his massive frame towering over the cubs and Alex, who crouched low to avoid drawing attention. After a tense standoff, the wild bear backed away, retreating into the forest. Archie turned to Alex, his eyes softening as he let out a low grunt, almost as if to reassure him. Alex exhaled the breath he didn't realize had been holding, his heart pounding in his chest. Once the danger had passed, Archie returned to the clearing, nuzzling his cubs and ensuring they were unharmed. Alex watched in awe as the massive bear displayed a tenderness that belied his formidable size. It was clear now that Archie had grown into a protective father, his instincts sharpened by his role as a guardian. Alex felt a profound sense of gratitude and admiration for the bear he had once raised. Archie had not only survived in the wild but had also become a powerful force for good in his own way. The reunion with his old friend had taken on a deeper meaning. Archie wasn't just visiting out of nostalgia. He was showing Alex the life he had built, the family he had created, and the strength he had gained. As Alex made his way back home, he couldn't stop thinking about the bond he shared with Archie. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced, a connection that transcended species and time. The encounter reaffirmed Alex's belief in the resilience of nature and the power of kindness. The encounter in the forest left Alex both shaken and deeply moved. The realization that Archie had become a father stirred a mix of emotions, pride, awe, and a sense of wonder. Back at home, Alex couldn't stop replaying the moment in his mind, Archie standing tall and fearless, protecting not only his cubs but Alex as well. The loyalty and courage Archie displayed were beyond what Alex ever imagined. Stella, too, seemed to sense that something extraordinary had happened. She stayed close to Alex that evening, resting her head on his lap as he sat on the porch, staring out at the forest. The peaceful chirping of crickets was interrupted only by the occasional rustling of leaves. Alex found himself wondering if Archie and his cubs were nearby, settling into their den for the night. The next day, Alex decided to do something he hadn't done in years: document his story. He pulled out an old notebook and began writing about Archie's rescue, the years they had spent together, and the events of the previous day. The words flowed easily, each memory vivid and full of life. He wanted to preserve this incredible bond, not just for himself but for anyone who might someday read it. Over the following weeks, Alex found himself returning to the forest more frequently. He would leave small offerings of food near Archie's den, fresh fruits, vegetables, and the occasional piece of meat. It wasn't about feeding them but showing that he cared and still felt connected to Archie's new family. Archie seemed to understand Alex's intentions. Whenever Alex approached the clearing, the bear would emerge from the shadows, his towering form both intimidating and reassuring. The cubs, initially shy, began to grow bolder, peeking out from behind Archie's legs and sniffing the air curiously. Alex kept his distance, respecting the natural boundaries of their world, but he couldn't help but feel a sense of joy as the cubs began to trust him. One day, as Alex sat on a fallen log near the clearing, Archie approached him with a surprising gesture. The massive bear nudged one of the cubs forward, encouraging the little one to take a few hesitant steps toward Alex. The cub sniffed the air, its small, round eyes studying Alex intently. With a soft grunt, the cub pawed at the ground, as if testing the waters of this new relationship. Alex didn't dare move, afraid of startling the cub or upsetting Archie. But after a moment, the cub let out a soft growl, almost playful, and retreated back to Archie's side. Alex chuckled quietly, feeling a warmth in his chest that he couldn't put into words. As much as Alex cherished these moments, he knew they couldn't last forever. Archie and his cubs belonged to the wild, and Alex was acutely aware of the risks involved in their interactions. The presence of a human in the forest could attract unwanted attention, from curious hikers to dangerous poachers. Alex resolved to be cautious, ensuring that his visits didn't disrupt the delicate balance of the ecosystem. At the same time, Alex found himself grappling with a newfound responsibility. He had saved Archie once, and now it felt like he was watching over an entire family. The thought of something happening to Archie or his cubs was almost unbearable. Alex began researching ways to help protect wildlife in the area, reaching out to conservation groups and local authorities to learn more about how he could contribute. In his conversations with wildlife experts, Alex learned about the increasing threats to bears and other animals in the region. Habitat loss, illegal hunting, and human encroachment were just some of the challenges they faced. The more Alex learned, the more determined he became to make a difference. One evening, as Alex sat on his porch with Stella by his side, he noticed a movement at the edge of the forest. It was Archie, standing tall and majestic under the moonlight. But this time, he wasn't alone. The two cubs ambled out behind him, their small bodies silhouetted against the dark trees. Alex felt a lump rise in his throat as he watched the scene unfold. Archie was teaching his cubs about the world, showing them the boundaries of their territory and how to navigate the wild. It was a reminder of how much Archie had grown, not just in size but in spirit. He was no longer the helpless cub Alex had rescued but a proud father and guardian. The sight filled Alex with a sense of peace. He realized that his role in Archie's life had come full circle. He had given the cub a chance to survive, and now Archie was passing on those lessons to his own offspring. It was a legacy that Alex hadn't anticipated but one that filled him with pride. As Archie and the cubs disappeared back into the forest, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. His bond with Archie had not only changed his life but had also deepened his understanding of nature and the interconnectedness of all living things. As time passed, Alex's connection with Archie and his cubs grew, but so did the complexities surrounding their interactions. The serene bond they shared began to face challenges that tested Alex's resolve and Archie's ability to protect his family. One late afternoon, while Alex was walking Stella through the forest trail, he noticed something unusual: deep tire tracks cutting through the undergrowth. They were fresh, leading further into the woods, and they weren't from any local maintenance vehicles. A sinking feeling gripped Alex's chest. The presence of vehicles in such a remote part of the forest could only mean one thing: someone was trespassing, and it wasn't for innocent reasons. That evening, Alex contacted the local wildlife conservation office to report what he had seen. The officer on the other end of the line confirmed Alex's fears. Poaching activity had been reported in nearby areas, and it seemed that hunters were moving closer to Alex's beloved forest. The realization that Archie and his cubs could be in danger ignited a fire within Alex. He couldn't let harm come to the bear he had raised or his young family. Determined to protect them, Alex decided to take action. He began spending more time in the forest, carefully documenting any signs of illegal activity. He used his phone to photograph the tracks and took notes about areas where the underbrush had been disturbed. Stella accompanied him on these trips, her keen senses alerting Alex to anything out of the ordinary. One evening, as Alex ventured deeper into the woods, he stumbled upon something that made his blood run cold. A makeshift campsite lay abandoned, the remnants of a fire still smoldering. Scattered around were empty cans, spent ammunition shells, and, most chilling of all, several snares and traps. The realization that poachers had set up camp so close to Archie's territory filled Alex with a mix of fear and anger. Alex's resolve was put to the test when he encountered two men in camouflage gear near the edge of the clearing where Archie's den was located. They were armed and scanning the area, clearly on the hunt. Alex's heart pounded as he crouched behind a tree, trying to remain unseen. Stella, sensing the danger, stayed silent at his side, her body tense. Alex debated what to do. Confronting armed poachers alone was dangerous, but leaving them unchecked could put Archie and his cubs at risk. Summoning his courage, Alex decided to make his presence known. He stepped out from behind the tree, pretending to be a lost hiker. "Hey! What are you guys doing out here?" he called, his voice steady despite his fear. The men froze, their eyes narrowing as they sized him up. "None of your business," one of them replied gruffly. Alex forced a friendly smile, trying to appear non-threatening. "Just curious. I've seen a lot of wildlife around here. Beautiful place, huh?" The second man shifted uneasily, glancing toward the clearing. "Yeah, it's nice," he muttered, clearly eager to move on. Sensing an opportunity, Alex pressed further. "You know, I heard there are conservation patrols in this area. They're cracking down on illegal hunting. Just a heads up." The mention of patrols seemed to have an effect. The men exchanged wary glances before muttering something under their breath and retreating toward their truck. Alex watched them leave, his body trembling with adrenaline. He knew he had only bought Archie and his cubs a temporary reprieve. The poachers might return, better prepared and more determined. After the encounter, Alex doubled his efforts to safeguard the forest. He reached out to the conservation office again, providing detailed reports and photos of the poachers' campsite. The authorities assured him they would increase patrols in the area, but Alex couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't enough. Meanwhile, Archie seemed to sense the growing tension. On Alex's next visit to the clearing, Archie was more alert than usual, pacing near the den and growling softly at every unfamiliar sound. The cubs, still playful and curious, stayed close to their father, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Alex decided to take matters into his own hands. He began installing discreet trail cameras around the forest, hoping to capture evidence that could lead to the arrest of the poachers. He also started leaving markers around Archie's territory to deter humans from venturing too close, brightly colored ribbons tied to trees, signs warning of conservation efforts, and even motion-sensitive lights designed to startle intruders. One night, as Alex reviewed the footage from his trail cameras, he made a surprising discovery. The camera near Archie's den had captured a clear image of one of the poachers, his face illuminated by the glare of a flashlight. Armed with this evidence, Alex immediately contacted the authorities, who promised to act swiftly. In the days that followed, Alex noticed a change in the forest. The tire tracks disappeared, the poachers' campsite was dismantled, and the ominous sense of danger began to lift. Archie, too, seemed more relaxed, his protective demeanor giving way to moments of playful interaction with his cubs. For Alex, the experience was a reminder of the fragility of the natural world and the responsibility humans have to protect it. He knew the battle against poaching wasn't over, but for now, Archie and his family were safe. The forest felt different after the poachers' departure. Alex could sense the shift in the air. Archie and his cubs seemed freer, the danger that had loomed over them momentarily lifted. Yet, despite the temporary reprieve, Alex couldn't shake the lingering unease. He knew that his efforts had only scratched the surface of the larger problem. Wildlife faced constant threats, and the bond he shared with Archie made the stakes feel deeply personal. One afternoon, as Alex prepared to visit the clearing, Stella began barking insistently at the back door. Alex peered outside and froze. Standing just beyond the tree line was Archie, his massive frame partially obscured by the foliage. But this time, something was different. Archie wasn't alone. One of his cubs was limping, struggling to keep up with its sibling and father. Archie let out a low, rumbling sound, a noise Alex had come to recognize as a call for help. Without hesitation, Alex grabbed his backpack, filled it with basic medical supplies, and followed Stella into the forest. Archie didn't retreat as Alex approached but instead stood watchfully near his injured cub. Kneeling down at a safe distance, Alex observed the young bear. A thorn was lodged deeply in its paw, and the cub was whimpering softly, its small frame trembling with each attempt to put weight on the injured limb. Alex's heart ached as he saw the cub's pain mirrored in Archie's protective posture. Archie growled softly, his gaze shifting between Alex and the cub. It was as if the bear was asking Alex to help, trusting him with something precious. Alex moved slowly, speaking in soothing tones. "It's okay, big guy. I am here to help." Alex opened his backpack and pulled out a pair of tweezers, gauze, and an antiseptic spray. The injured cub hesitated as Alex inched closer, its wide eyes darting nervously between its father and the unfamiliar tools in Alex's hands. Archie, sensing his cub's fear, let out a reassuring grunt and nuzzled the young bear gently. Taking this as a sign to proceed, Alex worked with steady hands, carefully extracting the thorn from the cub's paw. The cub let out a startled cry but remained still, as if understanding that Alex's actions were meant to help. Once the thorn was removed, Alex cleaned the wound with antiseptic and wrapped it loosely with gauze. Archie watched the entire process intently, his massive form looming over Alex. For a moment, Alex wondered if the bear's trust in him was misplaced, if one wrong move might provoke an instinctive reaction. But as he finished and stepped back, Archie let out a deep huff, a sound that felt like gratitude. The injured cub tested its paw, limping cautiously at first but gradually gaining confidence. Alex couldn't help but smile as the cub nuzzled its father, who responded with a low, approving growl. As Alex packed up his supplies and prepared to leave, he found himself overcome with conflicting emotions. Helping Archie's cub had been an incredible experience, one that deepened his bond with the bear and his family. But it also raised a troubling question: was he interfering too much in their lives? Archie and his cubs were wild animals, and Alex knew that nature had its own way of handling such situations. By stepping in, had he disrupted the natural order? Or was his intervention justified because of the unique bond he shared with Archie? The line between helping and overstepping felt increasingly blurred. Back at home, Alex spent the evening reflecting on his role in Archie's life. He had always believed in the importance of respecting nature, but his relationship with Archie was anything but typical. Was he becoming too involved? Or was this connection a rare and beautiful exception to the rules? Stella, sensing Alex's turmoil, climbed onto his lap, her warm presence grounding him. Alex stroked her fur absently, his thoughts a whirlwind of doubt and gratitude. As Alex packed up his supplies and prepared to leave, he found himself overcome with conflicting emotions. Helping Archie's cub had been an incredible experience, one that deepened his bond with the bear and his family. But it also raised a troubling question: was he interfering too much in their lives? Archie and his cubs were wild animals, and Alex knew that nature had its own way of handling such situations. By stepping in, had he disrupted the natural order? Or was his intervention justified because of the unique bond he shared with Archie? The line between helping and overstepping felt increasingly blurred. Back at home, Alex spent the evening reflecting on his role in Archie's life. He had always believed in the importance of respecting nature, but his relationship with Archie was anything but typical. Was he becoming too involved? Or was this connection a rare and beautiful exception to the rules? Stella, sensing Alex's turmoil, climbed onto his lap, her warm presence grounding him. Alex stroked her fur absently, his thoughts a whirlwind of doubt and gratitude. Inspired by his conversation with Dr. Morris, Alex resolved to approach his relationship with Archie more thoughtfully. He would continue to watch over the bear and his cubs, but from a respectful distance. His goal would be to protect their habitat and ensure their safety without interfering unnecessarily. The next morning, Alex returned to the clearing. Archie was there, his injured cub now walking steadily alongside its sibling. Alex smiled, a sense of peace settling over him. He had done what was needed, and now it was time to let nature take its course. The peaceful days following Alex's intervention with Archie's injured cub were short-lived. As the forest seemed to settle into a tranquil rhythm, a new and unsettling presence began to disturb its fragile balance. Alex first noticed the signs during one of his routine walks: faint but deliberate markings on trees, unusual paths carved through the underbrush, and the faint smell of gasoline in the air. These weren't the subtle footprints of poachers, they hinted at something far more organized and ominous. The signs pointed to the arrival of a group equipped with resources far beyond that of lone hunters. One afternoon, Alex spotted several men surveying the forest near the area Archie and his cubs called home. Dressed in uniforms with no identifying insignias, they carried advanced equipment, drones, motion sensors, and even thermal imaging devices. Alex's heart sank. This wasn't just an illegal hunting expedition. It looked like a full-scale operation. Alex decided to investigate further. Risking exposure, he followed the men at a safe distance, hiding behind trees and undergrowth. He overheard snippets of their conversation, mentions of capturing valuable specimens, tracking large mammals, and significant financial rewards. His suspicions were confirmed. These men were part of a wildlife trafficking syndicate, targeting Archie and other animals in the area. The stakes had never been higher. Protecting Archie and his cubs was no longer about outsmarting poachers. It was about taking on a well-coordinated and potentially dangerous operation. Determined to gather evidence, Alex returned to the forest the next day with a high-quality camera and notebook. As he documented the men's activities, he stumbled upon their base of operations hidden deep in the woods. The camp was a hive of activity, with trucks loaded with cages, stacks of equipment, and a large tent where several men gathered around maps and blueprints. Alex's stomach churned when he saw a cage containing a sedated deer, a grim reminder of what could happen to Archie and his cubs. Alex carefully snapped photos and recorded video evidence, knowing that every second spent near the camp increased his chances of being discovered. Just as he was about to leave, a sharp sound broke the silence, the unmistakable snap of a twig underfoot. Alex froze, his heart pounding as one of the men turned in his direction. "Who's there?" The man barked, reaching for a flashlight. Alex crouched lower, holding his breath as the beam of light swept over the foliage. Stella, who had been waiting a short distance away, let out a low growl, her protective instincts kicking in. Fearing the sound might draw attention, Alex gestured for her to stay quiet. The man lingered for a moment before muttering something under his breath and returning to the camp. Alex seized the opportunity to slip away, his pulse racing as he retreated to the safety of his cabin. That night, Alex couldn't sleep. The images of the caged deer and the men's plans haunted him. He knew he had enough evidence to alert the authorities, but doing so would take time. What if the traffickers moved on before help arrived? What if they found Archie and his cubs in the meantime? The thought of failing his beloved bear was unbearable. As he weighed his options, Alex realized he couldn't wait for help. He needed to act immediately, even if it meant putting himself in danger. With a heavy heart, he made the decision to confront the traffickers directly, armed with nothing but his determination and a plan to sabotage their operation. Early the next morning, Alex returned to the forest, his backpack filled with tools and supplies. He carefully avoided the traffickers' patrol routes, using his intimate knowledge of the terrain to stay undetected. Stella accompanied him, her sharp senses proving invaluable as they navigated the dense woods. Alex's plan was simple but risky: disable the traffickers' equipment and release any captured animals. By disrupting their operation, he hoped to buy enough time for the authorities to intervene. The first part of his mission was to disable the drones. Alex located their charging station near the camp and used a pair of wire cutters to sever the power cables. Next, he turned his attention to the vehicles. Crawling under one of the trucks, he punctured the fuel line, ensuring that it wouldn't start. As he worked, Stella suddenly growled, her ears perked up in alarm. Alex quickly hid behind a tree as two men approached, their conversation growing louder. "We need to move fast," one of them said. "There's talk of conservationists sniffing around. If we don't act now, we'll lose our chance." The men passed by without noticing Alex, but the encounter left him shaken. He realized how precarious his situation was. One mistake could cost him everything. Steeling himself, he continued his mission, freeing the sedated deer and several smaller animals that had been captured. The sight of the freed creatures bounding into the forest filled Alex with a renewed sense of purpose. As dawn approached, Alex finished his sabotage and made his way back to the cabin. Exhausted but determined, he contacted the conservation office one last time, providing them with the evidence he had gathered and urging them to act swiftly. By the time the traffickers discovered the sabotage, Alex was safely home. However, the relief was short-lived. That evening, he noticed a black SUV idling near his cabin, its occupants scanning the area. The traffickers had realized someone was working against them, and now Alex was in their sights. The forest was no longer just a sanctuary for Archie, it had become a battlefield. Alex knew the fight wasn't over and that protecting Archie and his cubs would require every ounce of courage he had. The tension surrounding Alex's cabin was palpable. The black SUV lingered on the road for hours, its occupants clearly surveilling the area. Stella, ever vigilant, paced near the windows, growling softly whenever the vehicle's lights flashed. Alex knew the traffickers were sending a message. They suspected him, and they wanted him to feel the weight of their suspicion. Realizing the situation was escalating, Alex reached out to Dr. Elena Morris, the conservationist he had consulted before. "Elena," he began, his voice strained, "I need your help. Things have taken a dangerous turn." Dr. Morris listened intently as Alex described the traffickers, their advanced operation, and his recent sabotage. Her concern was evident. "Alex, you've put yourself in serious danger," she said, "but you've also done something incredibly brave. I'll mobilize my team and notify the authorities. Stay low and stay safe until we get there." Her reassurances gave Alex a glimmer of hope. But as the sun set and darkness enveloped the forest, the looming threat of retaliation hung heavy in the air. That night, Alex decided to check on Archie and his cubs. He ventured into the forest under the cover of darkness, using his knowledge of the terrain to stay out of sight. Stella followed closely, her sharp senses alerting Alex to any potential dangers. When they reached the clearing, Alex was met with an unsettling sight. The cubs were restless, pacing and letting out distressed cries. Archie, usually calm and composed, was on edge, his massive frame tense as he sniffed the air. Something, or someone, had been near their territory. Alex's heart sank. The traffickers must have been scouting the area, marking Archie and his family as their next targets. He approached cautiously, speaking in soft, reassuring tones. "It's okay, buddy. I am here. We'll keep you safe." Archie's gaze softened at the sound of Alex's voice, and he let out a low, rumbling growl that Alex interpreted as gratitude. The bond between them felt stronger than ever, but Alex knew it wasn't enough to keep the bears safe. He needed a plan. The next morning, Dr. Morris arrived with her team of conservationists. Armed with equipment and expertise, they set up a temporary base near Alex's cabin. "We're here to protect the bears and gather enough evidence to shut this operation down for good," Dr. Morris explained. The team included biologists, wildlife trackers, and even a legal expert familiar with anti-trafficking laws. Together, they devised a strategy to monitor the traffickers and safeguard the bears. Alex, despite his lack of formal training, became an integral part of the team thanks to his deep knowledge of the forest and his unique connection with Archie. One of the team members, a tracker named Liam, expressed skepticism about Alex's relationship with the bear. "You're telling me this wild animal just trusts you?" he asked incredulously. "It's not about trust," Alex replied. "It's about respect. Archie knows I am not a threat, and I've done everything I can to prove that." Liam nodded, still skeptical but impressed by Alex's resolve. As the team worked to fortify the area around Archie's territory, Stella became an unexpected ally. The conservationists quickly noticed her sharp instincts and unwavering loyalty. "She's incredible," Dr. Morris remarked after Stella alerted them to a hidden motion sensor left by the traffickers. "It's like she's one of us." Stella's contributions deepened the connection between Alex and the team, solidifying their shared goal of protecting Archie and his cubs. Despite the growing danger, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. He wasn't alone in this fight anymore. Just as progress seemed to be underway, the traffickers launched a bold move. Late one evening, as the team reviewed their plans, a sudden commotion erupted outside the cabin. Stella's frantic barking was the first warning, followed by the sound of rustling leaves and heavy footsteps. Alex and Dr. Morris rushed outside to find two men attempting to dismantle one of the team's cameras. When confronted, the men fled into the woods, but their message was clear: they weren't backing down. "This is escalating quickly," Dr. Morris said, her expression grim. "We need to increase security and finalize our evidence. The authorities need to act soon." The next few days were a flurry of activity. The team reinforced their surveillance, installing additional cameras and motion sensors. They also mapped out escape routes for Archie and his cubs, ensuring they could guide the bears to a safer area if necessary. Alex spent hours in the forest, observing Archie and documenting his behavior. He noticed subtle changes in the bear's routine: shorter excursions, heightened alertness, and increased vigilance over his cubs. It was clear that Archie sensed the growing danger, but he remained in the clearing, as if trusting Alex and the team to protect his family. One evening, as Alex watched Archie from a distance, he couldn't help but feel a deep sense of responsibility. The bear had become more than just a wild animal. He was a symbol of resilience and trust, a reminder of the delicate balance between humans and nature. Amid the tension, a moment of levity brought the team closer together. While setting up a camera near the clearing, Liam stumbled upon Archie's cubs playing in a patch of wildflowers. "Look at them," he said, his voice soft with awe. "They're just kids, completely unaware of the danger around them." The sight reminded everyone of why they were fighting so hard. It wasn't just about Archie or the forest, it was about preserving the innocence and beauty of wildlife for generations to come. The escalating tension reached a fever pitch when the traffickers made their boldest move yet. Late one night, under the cover of darkness, they launched a coordinated effort to capture Archie and his cubs. The team, though vigilant, was caught off guard by the traffickers' sudden aggression. Stella's sharp barks pierced the silence, jolting Alex and the conservationists awake. Rushing outside, Alex saw headlights flickering through the trees. Several vehicles, including the familiar black SUV, were making their way toward the clearing. The traffickers weren't hiding anymore. They were here to take what they wanted, no matter the cost. Dr. Morris, still groggy but laser-focused, quickly rallied the team. "We have to act fast," she urged. "If they reach the clearing before we do, it's over." The group split into two teams, one to intercept the traffickers, and the other to guide Archie and his cubs to safety. Alex, without hesitation, chose to protect the bears. "I'll do whatever it takes to keep them safe," he said, determination etched on his face. Alex and Liam sprinted through the forest, their flashlights cutting through the dense darkness. Stella ran ahead, her instincts leading the way to Archie's territory. As they neared the clearing, they heard the unmistakable sound of a truck engine revving, followed by the harsh metallic clank of a cage door being slammed shut. "They're already here," Liam shouted, his voice filled with urgency. Bursting into the clearing, Alex was met with a harrowing sight. One of the cubs was trapped in a cage, its frightened cries echoing through the night. Archie stood protectively in front of the remaining cubs, his massive frame silhouetted against the moonlight. He let out a deafening roar, his fury shaking the very ground beneath their feet. The traffickers, undeterred, circled the clearing, their tranquilizer guns raised. "Stay back!" one of them shouted, his voice cold and commanding. "This isn't your fight." But Alex didn't waver. "You're wrong," he replied, stepping forward. "This is exactly my fight." While Liam worked to free the captured cub, Alex positioned himself between Archie and the traffickers. His hands trembled, but his voice remained steady. "You have no right to be here," he said. "Leave now, or face the consequences." The traffickers laughed, their arrogance evident. "And what are you going to do? Call the cops?" One of them sneered. Unbeknownst to them, Dr. Morris and her team had already alerted the authorities and were working to stall the other vehicles. Every second Alex and Liam could buy was critical. As the traffickers advanced, Stella lunged forward, barking ferociously. Her bravery seemed to embolden Archie, who took a step closer to Alex, his growls echoing through the forest. The sight of the massive bear standing alongside the man and his loyal dog created a striking tableau, a united front against the invaders. Just as the standoff reached its peak, a series of distant sirens broke through the tension. The traffickers hesitated, their confidence faltering. "Cops," one of them muttered, panic creeping into his voice. In that moment of distraction, Archie charged. His powerful roar and thunderous strides sent the traffickers scattering. One of them tripped over a fallen branch, dropping his tranquilizer gun, while another scrambled to climb back into his truck. The chaos gave Liam the opening he needed to free the trapped cub, who immediately scampered back to Archie's side. Alex seized the opportunity to grab the tranquilizer gun and pointed at the remaining traffickers. "Get out of here!" he shouted, his voice a mix of anger and desperation. "And don't come back." Realizing they were outnumbered and outmatched, the traffickers retreated, their vehicles disappearing into the forest. The clearing fell silent, save for the labored breathing of Archie and his cubs. As the sirens grew louder, signaling the arrival of the authorities, Alex collapsed to his knees, overwhelmed by the night's events. Stella nudged him gently, her soft whine offering comfort. Archie, his eyes filled with a mix of exhaustion and gratitude, let out a low rumble before nudging Alex with his massive head. "You did good, buddy," Alex whispered, tears streaming down his face. "We all did." The authorities, led by Dr. Morris, arrived moments later, securing the area and tending to the injured animals. One of the officers approached Alex, his expression one of admiration. "You're a brave man," he said. "Thanks to you, we've got enough evidence to shut these guys down for good." As dawn broke, the forest seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. The traffickers had been driven out, and Archie and his cubs were safe, for now. But Alex knew the fight wasn't over. The operation had exposed the harsh reality of wildlife trafficking, and it would take more than one victory to protect the forest and its inhabitants. For the first time in days, Alex allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. Sitting in the clearing with Stella by his side, he watched Archie lead his cubs back into the forest. The bond between them was stronger than ever, forged in the crucible of danger and adversity. The aftermath of the ambush left Alex and the team on high alert. Though the traffickers had fled, the forest still carried an air of tension, as if nature itself was waiting to see the final outcome of this battle. Archie and his cubs had retreated deeper into the woods, seeking solace after the chaotic night. Alex, now more determined than ever, knew they weren't out of danger just yet. The aftermath of the ambush left Alex and the team on high alert. Though the traffickers had fled, the forest still carried an air of tension, as if nature itself was waiting to see the final outcome of this battle. Archie and his cubs had retreated deeper into the woods, seeking solace after the chaotic night. Alex, now more determined than ever, knew they weren't out of danger just yet. The traffickers, undeterred, advanced with their equipment. One of them raised a tranquilizer rifle, aiming directly at Archie. Alex acted on pure instinct, grabbing a nearby branch and hurling it at the mont's arm. The rifle clattered to the ground, and Archie seized the opportunity. With a speed and ferocity Alex had never seen, Archie charged. The ground seemed to tremble beneath his massive frame as he barreled toward the nearest trafficker. The man froze in fear, dropping his gear and stumbling backward into one of the traps he had set. Archie let out a deafening roar, his presence alone enough to send the remaining traffickers into disarray. As the chaos unfolded, one of the cubs ventured too close to a trap. Alex's heart raced as he saw the spring-loaded mechanism about to snap shut. Without hesitation, he sprinted forward, scooping up the cub just as the trap clamped down with a violent snap. Archie stopped mid-charge, his gaze locking onto Alex. For a moment, the forest stood still as man and bear shared a silent understanding. Archie seemed to recognize Alex's selflessness, and with a low growl of approval, he turned back to guard his cubs. The authorities arrived in the nick of time, their vehicles barreling through the forest with lights flashing. The remaining traffickers, realizing they were outnumbered and outmatched, dropped their weapons and attempted to flee. But the forest, as if siding with Alex and Archie, seemed to conspire against them. Loose roots and tangled vines tripped their steps, and the police quickly apprehended them. One by one, the traffickers were handcuffed and led away. Dr. Morris approached Alex, her expression a mix of relief and admiration. "You did it," she said. "We all did." Alex, cradling the cub in his arms, looked over at Archie. "No," he replied softly. "Archie did it. He's the real hero." With the traffickers neutralized and the forest secure, it was time to say goodbye. Archie and his cubs, now free from danger, began to retreat into the dense foliage. Alex approached cautiously, setting the cub down near its siblings. Archie turned to face him one last time, his dark eyes filled with gratitude and understanding. "You'll be safe now," Alex said, his voice trembling with emotion. "Take care of them, Archie." To Alex's surprise, Archie stepped closer, lowering his massive head until it was level with Alex. The bear let out a low, rumbling growl that Alex interpreted as a farewell. Then, with a final nudge of his head, Archie disappeared into the shadows, his cubs trailing behind him. The following days were filled with cleanup and reflection. The authorities dismantled the traffickers' operations, uncovering a network far larger than anyone had anticipated. Dr. Morris promised to continue the fight against wildlife trafficking, using the events in the forest as a rallying cry for conservation efforts. As for Alex, he returned to his cabin with Stella by his side. Though the forest seemed quieter without Archie's presence, Alex took comfort in knowing the bear and his cubs were thriving in their natural habitat. He often found himself looking out toward the woods, wondering if Archie might return one day. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Alex spotted a familiar silhouette in the distance. It was Archie, standing at the edge of the clearing, his gaze fixed on the cabin. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and Alex felt an overwhelming sense of peace. Then, as quickly as he had appeared, Archie vanished into the forest. Alex smiled, knowing that their bond would forever transcend words and distance. The forest had given him more than just a friend. It had given him a purpose, a mission to protect and cherish the delicate balance of nature. And as the stars began to dot the night sky, Alex felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought him here. The forest had returned to its tranquil state, the chaos of the previous days now a distant memory. For Alex, life seemed to carry a new rhythm, one filled with reflection, gratitude, and an unshakable resolve to honor the bond he had formed with Archie in the natural world. As he stood on his cabin's porch, Stella lying contentedly at his feet, he thought about the profound journey that had brought him here. News of the heroic efforts to protect Archie and his cubs spread far and wide, turning Alex, Dr. Morris, and their team into local heroes. The townspeople, once indifferent to the forest's hidden dangers, came together to support conservation efforts. A fundraiser was organized to help the rehabilitation center and fund anti-trafficking measures. Children painted pictures of bears, while families donated generously to ensure the safety of wildlife. Dr. Morris, now a respected figure in the community, gave a heartfelt speech during the fundraiser. "This isn't just about saving one family of bears," she said. "It's about recognizing our responsibility to coexist with nature and protect it for generations to come." Alex, standing quietly at the back of the gathering, felt a deep sense of pride. Though he never sought recognition, knowing that Archie's story had inspired so many filled him with hope. Back at the cabin, Alex continued to reflect on his time with Archie. He thought about the initial moment of hesitation when he found the cub, the sleepless nights spent nurturing him, and the bittersweet decision to release him back into the wild. Every memory was a reminder of the resilience of nature and the unexpected bonds that could form between man and beast. One day, while exploring the forest, Alex came across a tree marked with deep scratches. He smiled, recognizing it as a sign that Archie and his cubs were thriving. The forest, with its towering trees and winding paths, had become a place of solace for Alex, a living testament to the extraordinary connection he had shared with a bear he once saved. Months passed, and the story of Archie continued to resonate beyond the community. Wildlife organizations use the tale to raise awareness about the importance of protecting endangered species and combating animal trafficking. Dr. Morris, inspired by the events, began a campaign to create a wildlife sanctuary in the region, a safe haven for animals like Archie and his cubs. Alex became an integral part of the campaign, sharing his experiences and insights. Though he preferred the quiet life, he understood the importance of his voice in advocating for change. "If a man and a bear can trust each other," he often said, "then surely we can learn to respect the wild and its inhabitants." One crisp autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Alex sat on his porch with a steaming mug of tea in hand. Stella lay beside him, her ears twitching at the distant sounds of the forest. The air was filled with the earthy scent of fallen leaves, and the sky was painted with hues of orange and purple. As Alex gazed into the woods, he felt a familiar sense of calm. Though he hadn't seen Archie since their reunion, he knew the bear was out there, leading his family through the vast wilderness. The thought brought a smile to Alex's face, a reminder that some bonds, though unseen, are never broken. Just as Alex was about to head inside, Stella perked up, her ears pointing toward the edge of the clearing. Alex followed her gaze and froze. There, standing in the shadows of the trees, was a massive figure. Archie. For a moment, Alex doubted his eyes. But as the bear stepped into the clearing, the moonlight illuminated his familiar features. Behind him, the cubs, now larger and more confident, lingered at the forest's edge. Archie let out a soft rumble, a sound Alex recognized as a greeting. Slowly, Alex stepped off the porch and approached, his heart pounding with emotion. He stopped a safe distance away, knowing that Archie was now fully a creature of the wild. "You're doing well," Alex said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. Archie tilted his head, his dark eyes locking onto Alex. In that moment, no words were needed. Their bond, forged through trust and love, was as strong as ever. After a few moments, Archie turned and lumbered back into the woods, his cubs following close behind. Alex watched until they disappeared from view, his chest swelling with pride and gratitude. As the years went by, Alex's story became a beacon of hope and inspiration. Schools taught children about the importance of wildlife conservation, and the Sanctuary Project flourished, providing a safe haven for countless animals. In the quiet moments, Alex often thought about Archie and the lessons he had taught him. He realized that protecting the wild wasn't just about saving animals. It was about preserving the connection between humanity and nature, a connection that Archie had embodied so perfectly. And so, as Alex continued his quiet life in the forest, he knew that Archie's legacy would endure. It was a story of courage, compassion, and the extraordinary bond between a man and a bear, a story that would inspire generations to come. As Alex's story fades into the quiet whispers of the forest, let it serve as a powerful reminder of what can be achieved when we act with compassion and courage. The tale of Archie and Alex teaches us that even the smallest acts of kindness can ripple into profound changes, inspiring others to protect the delicate balance of our world. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Let's spread awareness about the beauty of wildlife and the importance of its conservation. Stay tuned for more heartwarming and inspiring stories, and remember, every action, no matter how small, can make a difference. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.